Teri, from Ali Patberg to Grace Berger, recently Mackenzie Holmes. I know I'm going to leave out some really good players in there. You've had some greats in recent years. Some have gotten to stay a little bit extra time with the college eligibility rules. Now that as we kind of get back to the norm, how does everybody hit the reset button?
Well, that's a great question. I think we have some momentum. There's no doubt, in our program from those greats that you mentioned. Hopefully some of those young kids have learned some very valuable lessons about what it takes to play at this level and compete and be successful. And so, we're just looking forward to, we got 4 new schools that are going to be joining the big. It already was a difficult conference. We've just made it more difficult, but I feel like we've built a great foundation in Indiana, and our young kids that we have currently in our program, they understand how incredibly difficult it is to win in this league. But we do feel like we have the recipe of what it's looked like for us from the last couple of years.
Well, you've had the expectations for a while, and I would say over the last 5-8 years, now the expectations from the outside have changed of what is expected of Indiana women's basketball. How proud are you of the way that this program is now viewed, not just in the Big Ten, but nationally?
Well, obviously gratitude is, a word that comes to mind, and, gratitude from a lot of different places, but especially our players. We can be great coaches, but it takes great players to build a program, and we have done it, I think, brick by brick. We've certainly made some mistakes, but I think we've done it the right way. We've gotten the right kinds of players. We call them our kinds of kids that fit the way our staff, we want to play, we want to work, and all of it. And so, I think the other thing, too, is I'm incredibly proud of the fan base that we've been able to build. They have been so instrumental in our success. Simon Scott Assembly Hall, we've made that a pretty daunting place to come and compete. And that's what's made it special. We've been able to do it with our community, not just in Bloomington, but, surrounding Indianapolis, Evansville. It's been great for me to watch it build and, see where we started and, where it is right now.
So what has happened right with women's basketball over the last, let's say, 5 years as it reached the point of popularity where it had never been before? And maybe more importantly, how do we make sure it continues on that upward trajectory in the coming years? Well,
I think we have to continue to, recruit for Indiana, at least for us. We have to continue to recruit, really high-level players to be able to, compete with some of the greats that are in currently in our conference. But, I think from the media to the popularity, that's where, we can talk all we want about Caitlin Clark in this particular year and what she's been able to create for us. She's opened the door, and it's now the rest of us have to continue to build our programs, our teams, to continue to produce, really exciting talent. And, I think we're off to the right start. If you look at just the percentages, the fans, the sellout for the very first time in the history of women's basketball, this year at the Final Four, we're off to a good start. But we have to continue to play at the level in which our fans, we're pleasing, to the fans. They want to continue to watch us and support us.
Yeah, and the first time ever that the women's tournament was watched more widespread than the men's. And the 4 new schools that come in obviously bring fantastic basketball programs, but also star power with Juju Watkins at USC and Kiki Rice at UCLA and others. How does the addition of those 4 schools strengthen what I think most of us agree has already been the best conference in women's college basketball over the past few years?
Well, again, just with the star power, as you mentioned, it's going to continue to be incredibly difficult. But we welcome that. If you're a competitor and you want to play, you want to put yourselves up against the very best, and we welcome all 4 of those teams into the big. They've just made us a stronger unit, a stronger conference. We will pride ourselves in being the best conference in the country. I can guarantee you that. And so it's it's a great honor to be share this conference with not just great coaches but also the great players that everybody's going to have the opportunity to watch and cheer for.
I know you mentioned Assembly Hall, and I know that these incoming schools will be excited, and you'll be very excited to welcome them in Bloomington. What about the road trips that now your program will get to take, including stops inside Pauley Pavilion, one of the most famous in all of basketball?
You know, I know our kids are certainly looking forward to it, you know. But typically when we go out west, we do these trips of, 2 days where there's some sightseeing and, other things that they get to do and enjoy. And so I had to quickly tell them that, now that they're in our conference, there'll be less sightseeing and it's more about it's a business trip, and not that they're not business trips when you go to the West Coast or, you go to some of these great tournaments. But, certainly it'll be, great for us to play in some of the, the venues that we're going to, and in front of the, other crowds, It's so good for women's basketball, and to be in it as long as I've been in it, we've dreamt of this moment where, where we are, and we know that we have, there's more to do in our game, but this is an exciting time for women's basketball, and I'm really grateful that I can be here and be a part of it.
Those West Coast business trips do obviously change the scheduling process. I know there's been a lot of discussion, I'm sure, amongst coaches and administrators this week about that. How do we work together to find what is the best schedule in an 18-team league that's going to require a lot of logistics? Well,
I think, it's anytime there's a first for something, there's certainly going to be some things that we're going to look at and we're going to have to change. And, one of the things I do know about Tony Petiti and Megan Kahn and Kevin Pauga, I mean, they're doing their best to make sure that we have a schedule that makes sense from a logistics standpoint, from a traveling standpoint. Certainly there's going to be some things that we're going to have to probably address at the end of next year, but I do think that they have a well thought out plan for us and what the schedule looks like, it'll be a learning process for us, no doubt, this year, but I think once we get our feet wet and we understand sort of the rhythm and what it's going to look like and the flow and especially how our West Coast friends feel about it, because they're going to be making a majority of those trips, over to the Eastern and, the Central, time. So I think it's going to be a little bit more challenging for those guys, but we got smart people at the Big Ten. I think we'll figure out how to make it work.